The old saying is that it's not what you know, it's who you know. And that is so true when it comes to communicating with God the Father. That's the subject of this week's Connections. There's a wonderful story in our American history about a Union soldier who came to a point during the Civil War where his father had been killed and his brother had been killed, and his mother was left home alone on the farm. So this Union soldier sought to get a furlough so that he could go to Washington, D.C., and they granted him a furlough, and he went to Washington, D.C. because he wanted to talk to the president, President Abraham Lincoln. Well, he got to the gate of the White House, and the guard at the gate stopped him. He asked him what he wanted, and this Union soldier said, "I want to talk to the president." And the guard responded by saying, "There's no way you can do that. You've got to understand, we're in the middle of a war, and the president does not have time to meet with you." Well, very despondent, this Union soldier goes outside the White House. He finds a bench out on the street, and he sits down, and he just kind of hangs his head down. Pretty soon a little boy starts walking along, and he sits down beside this Union soldier. And after a couple of moments, the little boy said, "Mr. Soldier, what's wrong?" And so the soldier told him the story about his father and about his brother being killed in the war, and that his mother was home on the farm and needed his help, and he wanted a grant of leave to go help. But he said, "Unfortunately, the president is too busy to see me." The little boy reaches over, he grabs the hand of this Union soldier, and he says, "Come with me." And so they walk back up where the gate is, and they walk right past the guard at the gate. There's another guard at the front door to the White House, and they walk right past that. The guard doesn't even seem to notice the two of them walking by. Pretty soon they're up to the Oval Office, and the little boy opens the door, and they walk in. And President Abraham Lincoln is hovered over his desk along with the Secretary of State, Secretary of Defense, and some of his cabinet members. And the president looks up and says, "Todd, what do you want?" You see, it was Todd Lincoln, the president's little boy. And he said, "Dad, this soldier needs to talk to you." So the soldier pleads his case to President Lincoln and immediately receives his leave right then so that he can return home to the farm and be with his mother. Well, see, through Christ, we have been given access to the Oval Office of heaven. We've been given access to the King of Kings, the Lord of Lords, the Prince of Peace. Because of him, we've been granted that access. I want to read to you what Ephesians chapter 2, verse 13 says, because it just beautifully tells us the truth of this access that you and I have been granted. Verse 13, it says, listen, "But now in Christ, you who once were far away have been brought near by the blood of Christ." You go on down in verse 18, it says, "For through him we have access to the Father by one Spirit." So what case do you need to plead before God today? What case of somebody that you know do you need to grab the hand of and say, "Listen, I'll go with you"? We have access because of the Son of God. We have access to the throne room of God. Whose hand do you need to grab today and take to the guarded gate, past the guarded gate, past the front door, through the door of the Oval Office, the throne room of heaven, and plead your case before a merciful, a just, and a loving God? My encouragement to you this weekend is to see prayer in its perspective. Prayer is the granted access that we have to the Father to plead our case. Never give up. Never cease praying. That's our connections for this weekend. I want to remind you, if it's still Saturday as you're watching this video and you're in the Vero area, we have our I Am Second gathering tonight, dinner, followed by a great testimony tonight of somebody living their life second. All of you are invited. It starts at 6:30. And then, of course, our worship celebration Sunday morning at 9:30 at Emmanuel Church. And I hope that you have, in the meantime, just a blessed, a wonderful, and a God-filled, love-filled weekend.